2,000 years ago in ancient Judea, religion shaped every aspect of life. The temple in Jerusalem stood at the center. Guiding them were the religious leaders, Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes. The Pharisees were strict about the law, the Sadducees held power in the temple, and the scribes interpreted sacred texts. These leaders were seen as the voice of God's will. Their authority shaped daily life. They managed rituals, taught the laws, and set the standards for faith. People looked to them for guidance, believing their words led to righteousness. But this system was built on tradition and hierarchy. The temple, the rituals, the leaders. This was the world into which Jesus was born. But change was coming. The people were about to hear a new voice. From Galilee came Jesus of Nazareth, a voice unlike any other. He didn't seek approval from the established leaders or study in their schools. His authority felt different, rooted in authenticity, not tradition. He spoke of love, compassion, and a kingdom within reach. Ordinary people listened, drawn to his simple yet profound message. Jesus didn't just talk, he challenged the very foundations of the old ways. He questioned rules that had become burdens, focusing on the heart, not just outward actions. This was a radical shift. Faith as inner transformation, not just ritual. He taught, love God with all your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself. The leaders emphasized complex regulations. Jesus emphasized powerful, simple truths. He cut through tradition, pointing to what it means to be truly human. The old system was a web of do's and don'ts, meant to keep people pure. But Jesus saw that some rules mattered more than people. He pushed against boundaries, showing that God's love wasn't limited by human rules. For those in power, this was unsettling. But for many, it was liberating, a breath of fresh air. Jesus' actions spoke louder than words. He showed that rituals and rules weren't enough. True faith was about the heart, about love and mercy. He invited people to see faith in a new way, one that was real, freeing, and deeply personal. The old order was being questioned, and people began to wonder, could there be another way? With Jesus, the answer was yes. The Sabbath was surrounded by strict rules, sometimes missing the point of compassion. Jesus saw how these rules could make life harder, especially for those in need. One Sabbath, he healed a man with a withered hand, challenging that helping was forbidden. Another time, his hungry disciples plucked grain on the Sabbath. The Pharisees called it work. He declared, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Ceremonial washing was another tradition. Jesus responded, it's not what goes into the mouth that defiles but what comes out of the heart. He shifted the focus from external rituals to internal purity. Jesus challenged the leaders to see beyond tradition, for mercy over ritual. His actions redefined what it meant to honor God. He showed that faith was about the heart, not just the rules. The old traditions were under scrutiny. Jesus' message was clear: compassion comes first. The Pharisees were devoted to the law, meticulous in every detail. Many were sincere, believing they upheld God's commands, but Jesus saw their focus on rules, sometimes missed the law's true purpose. He confronted them directly, calling out hypocrisy. He said they did good deeds for show, loving praise and status. He compared them to whitewashed tombs, beautiful outside but decayed within. This was a shocking accusation against respected leaders. Jesus warned, if your righteousness doesn't surpass that of the Pharisees, you won't enter the kingdom of heaven. He pointed out their inconsistencies, tithing tiny herbs but neglecting justice, mercy, and faithfulness. These, he said, were the heart of the law. Jesus wasn't against the law but against its misuse. He challenged their motives, urging them to seek God's approval, not just public praise. The Pharisees' outward piety hid inner emptiness. Jesus called for authenticity, faith that transformed the heart. He urged people not to follow empty rituals but to pursue true righteousness. The confrontations were public and intense. The people watched as Jesus exposed the gap between appearance and reality. He demanded integrity, not just compliance. The Pharisees' authority was being questioned. Their traditions were under fire. Jesus' message was clear. God desires justice, mercy, and faithfulness, not just ritual but real relationship. The old order was being challenged at its core, and the people were listening. The call was for a deeper, truer faith, one that went beyond the surface. The Pharisees' world was changing, and so was everyone else's. The Sadducees, wealthy and powerful, controlled the temple and accepted only the written law of Moses. They denied resurrection, angels, and spirits, focusing on rituals and the present. They tried to trap Jesus with questions about resurrection, hoping to discredit him. Jesus replied, "You don't know the scriptures or the power of God." He explained that in the resurrection people are like angels. There's no marriage as we know it. He pointed to God's words to Moses. "I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Jesus concluded, God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. This silenced the Sadducees and affirmed hope beyond death. The temple, central to their power, became a battleground. Jesus drove out money changers, declaring, "My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers." This act struck at the heart of their authority and profit. The confrontation was direct and unforgettable. In Jesus' time, society drew sharp lines between insiders and outcasts. Tax collectors, lepers, women, and sinners were often shunned. Religious leaders kept their distance, fearing impurity. Rules about association and meals reinforced social divisions. Many outcasts felt judged, isolated, and unworthy of God's love. Jesus broke these barriers. He ate with tax collectors, shared fellowship with the marginalized, and touched lepers. He spoke kindly to women others ignored. His actions showed that no one was beyond God's grace. He broke down walls of exclusion, one encounter at a time. This was revolutionary, shocking to the leaders, life-changing for the outcasts. The leaders grumbled, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." But for the outcasts, it meant being seen, valued, and loved. Jesus demonstrated God's unconditional love. The kingdom of God, he showed, was open to everyone. Not just the righteous or privileged, but especially the lost and forgotten. His approach redefined community and belonging. He made the excluded feel included. The message was clear. God's love knows no boundaries. The outcasts found hope and dignity. The leaders were challenged to rethink purity and compassion. Jesus' example called everyone to a higher standard of love. The world was being turned upside down, and the outcasts were finally welcomed in. Jesus' challenges to tradition and authority did not go unnoticed. The leaders saw him as a threat to their power and influence. His popularity with the people made them uneasy. They began to see him as more than a nuisance, a genuine danger to their way of life. Fear and anger grew. They sent people to catch him in his words, hoping to find grounds for accusation. Public debates and accusations followed, breaking the Sabbath, blasphemy, even consorting with evil spirits. The more Jesus spoke truth, the more they resisted. The cleansing of the temple was a turning point, a direct assault on their domain. Their resolve hardened. They began to conspire against him. The lines were drawn, and the tension escalated. The path ahead grew dangerous, not just for Jesus but for his followers. The leaders' opposition became relentless. They feared losing control, tradition, and status. Jesus' message threatened the very foundation of their authority. The stakes were rising. The conflict was no longer just about ideas, it was about survival, of power, tradition, and a way of life. The leaders plotted to silence him. The stage was set for a final confrontation. Life for ordinary people was hard. Roman rule, economic struggle, and heavy religious burdens. Many felt distant from God, overwhelmed by complex rules and judgments. Jesus spoke a language of hope, not condemnation. He described God as a loving father who cared for each person. Through parables, he told stories of lost sheep found and prodigal sons welcomed home. These stories offered a vision of mercy and belonging. Jesus' actions matched his words, healing the sick, restoring dignity, welcoming outcasts. He told people the kingdom of God was near, and it was for them, the poor, the meek, the sorrowful. This message turned their world right side up. It gave them worth and belonging. Jesus' challenges to the leaders gave people hope. He showed that God cared more about their hearts than perfect rule-keeping. The path he offered was simple. Love God, love your neighbor. It was empowering and liberating. A genuine relationship with God was possible for everyone, not just the elite. For many, Jesus was a light in the darkness. He offered freedom from fear and shame. His message was for the broken, the lost, and the overlooked. The people found hope in his words and actions. The burdens of tradition began to lift. A new way of faith was opening. The promise of God's love was for all. The world was changing, and hope was rising. Jesus knew the risks of speaking truth to power. He saw the leaders' anger and heard their accusations. The pressure to conform was immense, but he did not waver. He kept proclaiming love, justice, and inclusion. He stood firm, not for himself, but for the truth and for those who needed hope. His conviction fueled his courage, even as opposition grew dangerous. His stand became a testament to the power of deep belief. That courage lived on in his followers and echoes through history. It's a call to examine our own beliefs and find the courage to stand for them, especially when it's difficult or challenges the status quo. His life shows what one person, committed to truth, can do. Standing up for what's right can change the world. It's not always easy, there will be resistance. But the pursuit of truth, justice, and compassion is always worthwhile. Each of us has a voice and can make a difference. Like Jesus, we can choose love over fear. We can include rather than exclude. In doing so, we help build a better world. A world with more hope, more light, and more love. The legacy of courage and compassion continues. The invitation is open to all. Stand for truth even when it's hard. Let love guide your actions, and help bring hope to the world.